English translation, 628th Contact Sunday, the 27th of September 2015, 13:11 hours.
You are already waiting here, dear girl. You would not have come so quickly again, but be greeted and warmly welcomed. And as you can see, Florina, I am still well, because the little thing you gave me yesterday is still working.
Greetings, and thank you for your welcome. It is a joy for me to see you well, to which I want to say that this will continue for some time as you feel present.
You mean that the medicine, something like that it was, will continue to work for some time?
Yes, that is the point of my words.
The last 3 days I was not exactly perfect on the dam, which Bernadette also noticed, because she said, like others, that I had been gray in the face. Eva was, of course, particularly anxious and concerned about me.
Which I can understand very well. But why did you call me?
It is about what Ptah has designed with regard to freedom of expression, and that he explicitly wants to have as it corresponds to his representation. You have said that he has made calculations in this regard, and insists that the whole thing be inserted in the Figu time sign, exactly as it corresponds to his design.
This is in fact the case, because according to his calculations, which were made several times, his final symbolic representation of the written text is to be calculated with a usability of 98.4%, while other representations, in which there was not an interrupted double line under the written text, as well as a division of the second and last line of writing, only resulted in a usability of 40 to 60%. The representation of the sentence image of the mentioned Article 19 also plays an important role here.
Aha! Then he has calculated the symbolic values of the whole in relation to their effectiveness on Earthlings.
Yes, but you did not call me here to ask me that, did you?
Of course not, because Bernadette asked a question that I would like Ptah to answer, if you are able to address it to him.
Of course I can if you insist, because I can always get in touch with him if it's important to you. What does the question refer to?
It would not have been so important that you had to come here immediately, but I am still very happy that you are here. Well, Bernadette has asked if it would be wise to use the representation designed by Ptah for the Figu time sign, also for the bulletins, special bulletins, and for Figu in relation to overpopulation, or to place the whole thing under the title head of each font mentioned.
I think this makes sense and is therefore also important. So I go into my plane and contact Ptah to put your request to him. If you want to come?
No, because today I do not have to look at the world from above. So I am going to stay here and wait for you.
Suit yourself. Here I am again, and unfortunately it took a little longer. But Ptah agrees and even thinks Bernadette's idea is very good, so you should do what is necessary so that all the scriptures mentioned are provided with the representation.
That is good. Thank you for your effort, and also pass on my thanks to Ptah. But if you are not in a hurry, I have one more question.
Yes?
You also understand something about bacteria and viruses, as I know, because my question also refers to them.
Yes?
About 20 minutes ago, we talked in the kitchen about the fact that you protect yourselves against the earthly environment against bacteria and viruses by a vibrating screen. On one side against the prokaryotes, which I know are called bacteria and archaea, while a third form is called eukaryotes. Although I am not scientifically well versed in bacteriology and virology, I can say, according to my modest general knowledge, that the scientific earthlings are not aware of the vast majority, or about 97 to 99% of all bacterial species existing on our planet. In my question, there are also viruses, as mentioned above, which are transmitted and spread as so-called virions, extracellularly or outside of cells. Bacteria and viruses can make you ill, but they do not have much more in common. Bacteria can reproduce themselves, whereas viruses need a host to reproduce. In addition, bacteria are up to 100 times larger than viruses, and are also actual life forms, some of them requiring oxygen for metabolism. Others sulfur, certain chemicals, or light, while viruses do not have their own metabolism, which is why, unlike bacteria, they are not classified as living beings. The bacterial cells reproduce themselves, usually by cell division, in contrast to the viruses, which do not reproduce themselves, as I have already said, and consequently they do not copy their genetic material themselves, as they cannot produce their shell themselves. As a result, viruses attack foreign cells, that is to say host cells in all kinds of living beings, such as animals, gems, etc., and humans, into which they allow their own genetic information to flow. That's about what I know.
Which is remarkable, though. But what is your real question?
Of course, the question. I explained to the listeners in the kitchen that you are carrying a tiny, millimeter-sized device with you, which has a vibration protection screen around you with a radius of action of about 1 meter, sphere of influence, half diameter, sphere of action, that is to say a diameter of 2 meters, which protects you on Earth or on other foreign worlds, etc., from bacteria and viruses, but also from insects and vermin, as well as from dirt, rain, etc., and from any atmosphere. This protective umbrella, in which you are also given your own atmosphere, which I did not explain, allows you to embrace me or each other, allowing the umbrella to be squeezed imperceptibly to a fraction of a millimeter without being damaged in any way or ineffective for you as protection. In the same way Quetzal, Sim Ya Se, and Ptah provided me with such a personal shield when I was on Era, as well as on a few other worlds where atmospheric conditions prevailed that would not have been breathable for all of us who were there. Special suits we had only on a small oddwelt, whose gravity was so small that we could have drifted off into free space.
Simyase and Ptah told me about it. But you have answered your question thoroughly enough yourself, so there is nothing left to explain to me. And with that, dear father friend, I must again be obliged to my duty and therefore say goodbye to you and...
Goodbye, dear girl. It always gives me great pleasure when you come here.
And for my part too, by which I mean seeing you and talking to you.